First two rounds of the London Chess Classic 2016 saw some really adventurous chess. The players seem to really want to go for each other, and that has set the tone for the entire tournament. So it's great fun to spectate. And round 6 was just fantastic. I could go through every single one of the games that was played there. I'm going to limit myself to 2 games, and these are the 2 games that really have bearing on the top places. So first of all, an intriguing matchup, Fabiano Caruana against Hikaru Nakamura. Of course, there's great rivalry between the American players, and Caruana, current US champion, Nakamura came second, and yeah, they're not great friends, let's put it like that. Very sharp, bishop g5, Najdorf variation. Nakamura played this typical thrust in the Najdorf g5, trying to gain control of the e5 square. So for example, if f5, this would be a dream for black, that knight sits so beautifully in the middle of the board. So h4 was played. Those of you with a very good memory might recall that this exact position was seen in the game between Giri and Vachier-Lagrave earlier this year in Norway chess. And there, Vachier-Lagrave played rook g8. And he ended up winning a very nice game. So why didn't Nakamura follow this game? Well, I think there's a very nice piece sacrifice here. No doubt Caruana was ready with some improvement, but this is one possibility, and white has tremendous compensation for the piece. In any case, Nakamura, after not too much thought, flicked in this move b4. A very mysterious pawn sacrifice. Why on earth did he do that? Well, we're going to see any second. But both players playing incredibly quickly, so basically all home preparation. And now it gets highly tactical. So knight takes g4, bishop takes, and now e5, attacking queen and knight and opening up this diagonal for the bishop. And here, well, there is one particular tactic which works without this pawn sacrifice, and that's knight d5 takes, and then the queen retreats. Now in this case, because the knight has been dragged away from attacking the bishop, you can see this still defends. But in this case, black could exchange and now play knight takes b4, and this is a very promising position for black because of pressure here, and of course that knight is attacked. Now that wouldn't work unless Nakamura had sacrificed this pawn with b4, so that's why he did it. So both players playing very quickly, and instead of this idea with knight d5, Caruana sacrificed his queen, and he played this very quickly. White has beautiful squares for the knights. This is the point. Knight f5. I mean, only two minor pieces for the queen, but this is the huge danger. Whenever black advances that pawn to e5 in any Sicilian, then these squares either side on f5 and d5 are weakened. So white simply has superb positional compensation here. But clearly this was prepared by Caruana, whereas for Nakamura this came as a real surprise. Nakamura thought for 35 minutes in this position. So this obviously came as a massive shock. I mean, my first instinct would be to just trade pieces, even though, perhaps it looks very anti-positional to give up that bishop, but still, the knight is dangerous on f5. But actually, white can just play this really slowly. Rook here, maybe this rook comes across here, maybe you double on the d file. This is very unpleasant for black. So what is black going to do? Well, Nakamura played rook b8. A little bit of potentially pressure there, and of course it prevents bishop b6. Caruana exchanged on f6 and then took on d6. and rook d1. So one of the knights has gone, but now both rooks coming into the game very nicely, and of course those bishops also look very tasty indeed. If rook takes b4 in this position, not a good move. More tactics, rook takes bishop wins. If queen takes, then knight g7 wins. And if pawn takes, then bishop h5. Followed by this, and basically that queen has just run out of squares. And don't forget, this one could be a follow-up too, with maybe a mate on g7. Dreadful position for black. So what did Nakamura do? Well, he simply castled here. This is a case of out of the frying pan and into the fire, however, because white still has a very strong attack. Really nice move from Caruana now. h5. So with these two minus pieces against the queen, even though the black king has escaped to the side, white still has a superb attack. This bishop can come to h4. That is, of course, the point of playing h5. And the queen really running very short of squares. Well, let me show you a little sample variation. If rook d8, then bishop h4 is very good. I mean, this should be a winning endgame for white, because the rook can take a pawn, another pawn. I mean, maybe this is black's best chance to take here and go into an endgame. Opposite colour bishops and pawns are even, but white is threatening this one and potentially this one as well, and there could be threats here later on. Very promising endgame for white, not yet winning though, but Nakamura thought he'd chance his arm and played on. Queen g5, but he shows that he's content to repeat moves. If queen takes bishop, then this is actually going to be winning for white. So the queen came back. Check, and now we're reaching crunch moment. Bishop f5, very cool move. It's a good move. And here, in fact, the clearest way to win is simply knight takes f7, and there is no defence at all. Queen takes, rook takes, and white is simply getting through to the king with moves like this, and possibly here, possibly even rook d6. I mean, all these moves, it's just winning for white. Instead, Caruana had a bit of a brainstorm. I don't think knight f7, it's not such a difficult move to find. He first played b5. Now, I'm not quite sure whether he was trying to maybe close the b file, maybe he was worried about counterplay or lure the rook up the board. In any case, Nakamura played queen e8. This is all rather mysterious. And now Caruana plunged in. Caruana didn't put the win in doubt. He's still winning after b5. But he could have been more efficient about it. Anyway, I'm not complaining. You know, this is a fantastic sacrifice. Beautiful long-term queen sacrifice. And in this position, after rook h6, Nakamura resigned. Check to the king. If king g8, then you can chase the king across. Well, let me show you the main variation. King f8, check. Rook exchange, and bishop c5. If king f6, then rook g6 is mate. And if the king goes the other way, then that will do nicely a skewer. And then you can choose which way you want to win. You can take the queen, or you can play bishop d6 first. Beautiful sacrifice from Caruana. It was preparation. This was found by Caruana's second, Rustam Kazimjanov, apparently. But still, you know, this is part of the professional game. And Nakamura was a little bit careless to allow this. It did look very, very strong indeed. Let's go to the game between Vachier-Lagrave Topalov and Wesley So. So Wesley So out in the lead, and it's typical Italian game played by Topalov, where he's played his bishop out very early. This is a kind of favourite move of Magnus Carlsen. But Wesley So hasn't castled yet, but he advances his pawn. Well, now he castled. He actually played this against Topalov in the Liven tournament earlier in the year, and there Wesley played King G7 and he ended up winning the game. But today Wesley did something different. He played Knight H7, which basically allows the Queen to enter into the game. H3, giving the Bishop potentially some room. And now H5. So Wesley really going for it today. You know, Veselin has lost, well, before this round, lost 4 games. He's absolutely at the bottom of the tournament pile. And, you know, these professionals, when there's one player at the bottom, they sniff blood. They're like sharks circling. He's the target in the tournament. So Wesley had to go for it today. This is his best chance to score another win, or a really good chance. So he's playing incredibly sharply. You can get away with this because the Queen can follow the pawns up. The Queen has very good access to the king side, which helps to secure his own king as well, of course, to attack. D4 looks like a good reaction to try and counter in the middle of the board. And this position is still very unclear, although, you know, the white king is opening up. Black's king is also quite exposed. Here, Topalov played E5, which certainly looks like a mistake. Knight B3 would have been better. And then Knight D4. And this is just completely unclear. Instead, E5 was played, but suddenly the game turns in Black's favour. And here's the crunch move. A5, you kind of think, what on earth is this for? Of course, he wants to bring the rook into the game, but I'm afraid it's just too slow, because in this position, Wesley has F5. This is already a killing move, obviously threatening F4. So that was taken. But now the F file opens, and look at that bishop in the corner like a sniper, cutting across the board. Completely safe on A7, but white's king is in the firing line. Rook F7, very simple idea. Wesley just wants to switch to the H file, and that will be that. Rook E1. So trying to bring the knight over to block, but now Knight H5 is an absolute killer. Don't forget that's a pin. Bishop takes, Knight G3. I mean, there really is no defence now. This is all in vain at the other end of the board. Bishop takes F2. King has to go to H2, and now, of course, this had to be foreseen in advance. Queen H5, played after precisely 3 seconds by Wesley. This is a winning move. Threat, a double check, followed by Queen H2 mate. The king came up, and now Knight H2 is a very, very elegant winning move. Threat, Queen G3 mate. If the knight comes back to defend this square, then that allows Knight G1 checkmate. So actually, Topalov resigned after Knight E2, but oh, come on, I can't resist showing that position on the board. Knight G1 mate, fantastic. So with that victory, Wesley So maintains his lead. He has 4.5 out of 6. Fabiano Caruana has 4 out of 6, having won today. And Kramnik, he drew today, he has 3.5 out of 6. So those 3 players are at the top. The tournament is starting to stretch out a bit. 3 games to go. And actually, those players have to play each other. Kramnik has already played Caruana, but the rest have to play each other. So it's still wide open with 3 rounds to go.